You have queued up the Roulette Tapes, a program of adventurous music and conversation recorded at the New York City Concert Hall, Roulette. You can hear thousands of concert recordings from Roulette's past and present and find news of upcoming events celebrating innovation and imagination at roulette.org. Aren't you curious?
Welcome to another episode of the Roulette Tapes. I'm Susan James. I'll be your host. On this edition, we look at two concerts featuring trumpet player Adam O'Farrell as he breaks down his early experiences in music and his recent gigs as a sideman. He credits his grandfather, composer Chico O'Farrell, his father, pianist Arturo O'Farrell, and his mother, pianist and educator Allison Dean, for encouraging him to follow in their footsteps to become one of the most sought-after musicians of his generation. He's a recipient of a Jerome Foundation commission, and Roulette is proud to present his work. We'll hear him in two settings. First, with Mary Halvorson and her project Amaryllis and Belladonna, and we'll also hear him with Jen Shyu. Here's Adam O'Farrell.
My name is Adam O'Farrell. I am a composer and trumpet player from Brooklyn, New York. My earliest musical memories were probably being surrounded by my grandfather's big band, which my father would come to lead at a certain point, and, being surrounded by lots of brass and percussion and sort of a very big sound, and kind of sitting as a little kid in the back with the trumpet players and just watching everything kind of unfold. My grandfather was a composer and arranger who came up he moved to New York from Cuba when he was in his 20s, which was in the early to mid 40s, and he composed one of the most seminal works of big band, the big band canon, the jazz canon, the Afro-Latin music canon, which is the Afro-Cuban Jazz Suite, and that featured Charlie Parker and Flip Phillips with Machito's orchestra. The piece, it has a lot of elements going on, elements of, jazz and bebop, especially it's very emblematic of the time and the way it deals with those elements of bebop, and through Bird's presence, it also has elements of Cuban music and rhythms but also has a lot of elements of classical music, like Western classical music, people like Stravinsky, who was a very big influence on my grandfather, and also just in the nature of the piece itself. It has the way it unfolds like a narrative in a way that a lot of Western classical, symphonic works unfold. My dad followed in his father's footsteps and became a pianist and composer himself. He's done a lot of different things. He came up playing jazz piano. One of his first experiences was playing in this rap with this rap artist, or hip hop. I don't know if they were even sure what to call it back then, but this band called J. Walter Negro and the Loose Joints, and I think he did that when he was 17, and then shortly after he was picked up by the amazing Carla Bley to join her band. He started touring with her before he turned 20. That was very, very important experience for him, just in learning about character and humor and theatricality, which I think are qualities that persist in his music, today. And then my mom is a classical pianist. She's been playing piano since she was 6. Had this sort of prodigious moment in her early career where she played Carnegie Hall when she was like 8 or 9, and she taught at City College for over 30 years. And one of the experiences I really treasure about growing up in a house that I grew up in was hearing her practice the Gershwin preludes. Like I remember Zach, my brother, and I would just like sit, like we'd ask her to play them for us, and we'd just sit on the couch and listen like in awe. And like, that piece, I mean, there's a couple of those preludes which are very, very, very pianistic and very flashy. So it was always really fun to like just watch her crush it every time. I actually began on piano. My mom thinks it was when I was 5, but I think it was when I was 6. And I studied classical piano. I actually like wrote my first song like within the first year I started playing piano. It was this song called Agent O, which kind of was like a riff on like a Mission Impossible kind of thing, Shortly thereafter, I picked up trumpet at 8. Me picking up trumpet, I think, was brought on by a couple of things. One of which was very simply that I saw my brother's middle school band, and the trumpet was very loud and shiny, and I was just kind of, on a very simplistic level, allured by that. But on a more, I don't know, maybe this had something to do with it too, is that there was this amazing Dominican saxophonist named Mario Rivera, who played with my grandfather, my father, Cachao, Tito Rodriguez, Ray Santos, everybody. Dizzy played a lot with Dizzy Gillespie. I remember going with my dad to Mario's apartment. Mario had one of Dizzy's horns, and I think I must have been 5 or 6, and I put it to my lips, and it smelled like cigarettes. I don't even remember if I really got a sound out of it, but I think that was my first, I wouldn't even call it formal, but that was my first introduction to the instrument on a physical level. Mary is somebody that I feel lucky to have met, in the past couple of years. She's really one of the coolest people to hang with and work with, and I've learned a lot from in terms of just her capacity for music and her ability to completely just lock into the band and the energy on stage and the music, and not really, you never feel like there's anything artificial or external when you play with her. It was cool to do this project because it was the second project I've done of her. I play in her other band, Code Girl, and this music was completely different people, and the music was very different, bigger scale with the string quartet and the vibes and all that. But it was cool. Like it was really awesome to be a part of a different side of her and to see how she could work with a different ensemble but really retain who she is and her musical identity while really pushing herself, and not to overthink it, but just to take my experience of having played with her in this other ensemble and think about, like, okay, what have we kind of built already, and how do I apply that to a setting that has trombone, vibraphone, and strings? Like, how do I kind of adjust my sound and color and approach to the instrument and everything? And one thing I really love about that band is playing with Jacob Garchik, the trombone player. He's one of the baddest musicians I know, frankly. I don't know, there's something really special about, I guess because I grew up around big bands, there's something really special about playing with other horn players who really understand phrasing and have a deep awareness of each other as you're playing. And Jacob is somebody that, like, I just I feel like I'm in capable hands when I'm playing with him, and it's just I love kind of working with somebody like that who's had experience playing a lot of different types of music. I actually recently have played in his Mexican banda project where he plays sousaphone, and it's like, wow, this guy can do anything. So playing with him in Mary's band is really, really a highlight. Shyu has always been somebody that I I mean, I don't even know if looking up to is the right way to put it, you know, I mean, and it is the right way to put it, but I mean, just that feels like an understatement. Nobody's really doing what she's doing, you know, beyond just like the cultural sort of boundary pushing that she does, but just on pure storytelling level. She miraculously gets across her story while retaining an immense mystery to it. It's really inspiring. This was cool. This is really great to be a part of because I had taken a couple lessons with Jen, I think when I was in college. Again, I kind of went into it wanting to understand how she transcended different cultures with her music, but it became more about storytelling, and that's what I've learned the most from her, is that no matter what instrument she's playing, whatever language she's singing in, or whatever costume she has on, it always comes down to narrative and the message, and I think like that's just such an essential thing to like witness and be a part of. So I was really, really grateful to be a part of that. It's always intimidating filling in for Ambrose Akinmusiri. He's one of my heroes. So I just hope I, you know, brought something to the music, and, you know, playing with Matt Mineri and Thomas Morgan and Dan Weiss. I mean, I've played with Dan a lot, and a couple of years ago with Rudresh Mahanthapa and his band, and I can still think about like the first time I played with Dan and how much like that completely changed the way I look at rhythm and interacting with drummers, and so to do that again in a very different context was really fun.
Now, question how that glorious deed is done. Summon the spirits from the earth and the air. Let them tell us to prepare for the war that's born within. Skin rubs off, and what remains, the human color of our 홍아다시 후구야
I've been playing at Roulette. I think the first time I played at Roulette must have been with the Eco Music Big Band, which was started by Fred Ho. You know, it's always been a very, very essential place, not just for me, but for many, many artists and audiences. So I'm really, really grateful to be a part of and contribute to the progressive legacy that they've created and have been putting so much work to maintain. And yeah, for my commission, you know, I just, as weird as it sounds, you know, I'm turning 28 in a couple of weeks, but I am planning some stuff that gets a little bit back into some things that I was thinking about maybe like 8-9 years ago musically, but also kind of non-musically, certain literature influences and all that. I just recorded 2 albums this past year, one of which is the 4th album of my quartet Stranger Days, and I also just recorded an album of a brand new octet book of music called 4V's Streets, which was inspired by literature and music of the 1930s. You know, that took a long time and a lot of thought and a lot of deliberation and research and all that. I think with this commission I want to maybe try and get back into a more, I don't know, spontaneous energy and just like, you know, maybe a little bit less epic feeling than some of that stuff. One, because it, you know, did take a lot out of me, but also I think just you know, it's good to try and remain light and retain light.
Wake up. Wake up, hello. Hello. Wake up. Hello. Wake up. Wake up. Hello. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up.
Adam O'Farrell has been our focus on this edition of the Roulette Tapes. You can hear more of his work coming up in the next year as he presents his commissioned pieces at Roulette, and that, of course, will always appear in our archive. The Roulette Tapes is an award-winning podcast made possible in part with support from the National Endowment for the Arts and the Grammy Museum. Our executive producer is David Weinstein. For everyone at Roulette, my name is Susan James. Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to the Roulette Tapes, a program of adventurous music and conversation. This series is produced by Roulette Intermedium. You can find thousands of concert recordings from Roulette's archives and news of upcoming events at roulette.org.